My sister was always the center of attention. She manipulated situations to steal our parents' attention and to draw everyone's care towards herself. She even tried to steal my boyfriend. After enduring it for years, I ended up being seen as the bad sister by everyone. I thought that would be enough for her to leave me alone, but unexpectedly, she pushed me into the lake. As the only one left after you die, sister, I'll have their undivided attention. However, when they learned of my death, they went insane, confused. I opened my eyes only to find myself turned into a ghost. Under the red backdrop, there were Winnie, my sister, and Jim, my boyfriend, taking wedding photos. Winnie looked stunning, and Jim was as handsome as ever, a perfect match. Suddenly, Winnie peeked outside. The door was empty. She frowned. Where is my sister? Is she angry with Winnie? Jim took her hand and comforted her with a gentle squeeze. Mia would bless us. He kissed her forehead gently, the same way he once kissed me, when I thought we'd be together forever. My mother's beautiful features twisted into a harsh scowl. Mia, that wicked trash. It's better she's dead outside. My father seemed like he wanted to say something but retreated under my mother's stern gaze. He was always like this. The last time my mother slapped me repeatedly, he wanted to intervene, but a single look from her stopped him. Later, he brought me some ointment, but I refused. Thanks, Dad. But it's not necessary. He shook his head and sighed. Dad has no say. Don't blame him. I just lowered my head, remembering the years of abuse from my mother while my father watched silently, unable to stop her. He was the underdog, with my mother controlling the family's finances. Initially, my mother wasn't like this towards me. When did it all start? Around the time I was 15, a passing sorcerer visited our home, dressed like a sage, with a mysterious aura. He asked my mother for a glass of water and then pointed at me seriously. If I'm not mistaken, you have another younger daughter who has a rare disease and won't live past 40. My mother was shocked, asking how he knew. My sister Winnie and I are a year apart. She was born with a rare disease, whereas I've always been healthy. The sorcerer frowned. This daughter has a malevolent aura, likely having absorbed her sister's fortune. He thanked my mother and left. After that, life became difficult for me. My mother told everyone that I was an evil star, that I had sucked away my sister's fortune, causing her illness. Anyone close to me would become unfortunate. Even when our family store went bankrupt in the following years, she blamed me, whipping me with chili-soaked ropes until I was swollen and inflamed. Winnie cried beside her, shouting, "It's okay if Winnie doesn't live till 40, don't beat sister." Hearing this, my mother hit me even harder. If not for this evil creature, how could Winnie have gotten sick? She said I owed Winnie a life, and that beating me was my deserved punishment. But no one knew that the sorcerer was brought by Winnie, and his words were orchestrated by her. My mother's hatred for me was deep-seated, driven by her superstitions. After meeting the sorcerer, before long, she discovered a voodoo doll hidden under her pillow. Winnie looked at me in terror, falling into our mother's arms, her eyes red with tears. "Mom, I saw my sister going into your room yesterday," I cried, insisting it wasn't me. Dad also defended me, saying I was a good child, but Mom wouldn't listen. She grabbed a glass vase from the table. With a loud crash, it struck my forehead, and blood poured out. The pain nearly knocked me unconscious. After a rough bandage was applied to my wound, the next day, my sister fell ill. She claimed she had covered herself well with the blanket, but somehow in the morning, it had ended up in my room. Mom scolded me furiously, calling me a vile creature out to kill my own sister. "Winnie is already weak, and you still take her blanket." I was beaten and kicked repeatedly, curled up like a mouse in the corner, weak and utterly defenseless. Dad watched, and this time, he scolded me for mistreating my sister, saying she could die because of it. But what about me? I was the one nearly killed by my sister. She was the one who made the voodoo doll and placed it under Mom's pillow. And she herself had moved the blanket to my room, but my parents wouldn't believe it. They thought their beautiful and delicate little daughter could do no wrong, and me, the malicious one, supposedly lying and blaming my sister, utterly wicked. Afterward, disliked by my parents, I became more isolated. I lived on a converted balcony at home, wearing Winnie's hand-me-downs. After high school, Mom wouldn't let me study further. My pleas on my knees were useless. She twisted my ear as if she wanted to tear it off. "You, with your wicked mind, think you deserve to study. The more you learn, the more you'll think of ways to harm Winnie." Later, I worked as a cashier at a nearby supermarket. Some of the cashiers, neighborhood aunties, would gossip about me daily. If something went missing, they'd call the police on me, unanimously blaming me. When surveillance finally revealed a thief was responsible, they didn't apologize, insisting, "Why blame someone else when it's obviously you? You were never good." Mia, that dead girl, can't compare to her sister Winnie, TSK. She even caused her sister not to live past 40. Such a jinx, always so malicious from a young age, appearing innocent but harboring evil inside. If I were her mother, I'd have killed her long ago to avoid the bad luck at home. They spoke without reservation, openly. Their eyes filled with disgust as they looked at me. I had grown accustomed to these words. Malice always enveloped me, stifling my breath. Now that I'm dead, they must be happy, right? My spirit lingered near my parents, avoiding the happy faces of my sister and Jim, watching the heavy rain outside through the civil affairs office glass. My thoughts drifted back to that rainy night when I was thrown out of the house and met Jim. "Miss, if you don't mind, take this coat and come to my place for a while." Soaked and nearly frozen, a coat was draped over my shoulders. I lost all ability to think and followed him home. He was a gentleman, offering me the bedroom while he slept on the couch. The air conditioning was warm, filling the house with a crisp, clean scent. "Thank you." He brought over a bowl of ginger soup for me to drink to warm up. "I've seen you before. You're Mia, right? I saw you when I went grocery shopping with my mom." The smell of food filled the air, and several big dishes were laid out on the table. He pulled me up, his slender hands passing me a pair of chopsticks. His cold, sharp eyes smiled at me, melting the snow and blooming flowers in an instant. From then on, I could never forget those eyes. I knew he was a designer valued by his leaders, while I was just an ordinary cashier. The only thing I had was a rather decent appearance. Soon after, we fell in love. My mother hit me again, this time because I forgot to wash my sister's clothes. It was a cold winter's night, and she dragged me out of bed to hand wash my sister's underwear. The underwear was stained with menstrual blood, making my stomach churn. "You should wash Winnie's clothes on time. You're really worthless, always lazy. It would be better if you were gone." She stood by, occasionally kicking me. The next day, Jim found out about all this. He took me home to confront my mother, but I told him to let it be. "I can't stand to see my precious Mia suffer like this." He placed a finger on my lips, gently kissing my forehead. For a moment, I almost thought I was going to be protected. However, the moment he saw my sister Winnie, I knew I was about to lose something again. Winnie stood behind the door, her face far more delicate and beautiful than mine, smiling with eyes like a deer. "Are you my sister's boyfriend?" Jim's ears turned red instantly. He was shy. He had come to stand up for me but ended up staying for dinner with the family. My mother, watching Winnie's shy cheeks, placed a rib in Jim's bowl. "Our Winnie has been more sensible than Mia from a young age, and because of Mia, she has suffered a lot. Jim, if you're with Mia, you'll have to look out for her too. Take good care of our Winnie." Jim hastily agreed, unable to meet my eyes, his gaze lingering on my sister. After he left, my mother pulled me into the room, telling me that I had only finished high school and was just a cashier. I was no match for a high-achieving worker like Jim. "I think Winnie and Jim are a better match. You've always stolen Winnie's luck, causing her illness. You owe her by birthright. Everything you have, including your boyfriend, should be hers." For the first time, I gathered the courage to retort, but was met with several slaps that left me dazed and burning with pain. "Don't you dare fight with Winnie over a man, or I'll kill you." Then she kicked me out of the room, while Winnie sat on the sofa, smiling at me. "Sister, I really like brother Jim." My heart sank, a bad premonition washing over me. I checked my phone to see a message from Jim. "Mia, I have a day off tomorrow. Let's go hiking with your sister. Auntie said she's not well. We need to take care of her. Give her some exercise." Before I could reply, another message popped up. "I'll pick you up downstairs tomorrow." Winnie chuckled, a touch of vibrant color blooming on her pale face. I felt as if I had fallen into an icy abyss. On the mountain, Winnie, with her cheeks flushed, lay on the ground, not moving, and pouted at Jim. "Brother Jim, could you carry me?" Despite my discouragement, Jim carried her on his back. "Mia, she's your sister. You can't be so petty," he said, justifying his care for Winnie because she was my sister. As we descended the mountain, Her body clung to his back like a snake. By the time we reached the foot of the mountain, Jim's ears were bright red. Suddenly, my sister leaned close and whispered in his ear, "Jim, am I heavy?" Watching their flirtatious exchange, I was infuriated and gave Jim the cold shoulder. Instead of trying to appease me as usual, he frowned and said, "Mia, I know everything. Aunt told me that it was you who caused Winnie's illness. Don't you feel guilty?" I am being kind to Winnie to atone for your actions. Seeing him like this filled me with dread. Memories of being wronged by Winnie resurfaced, and I couldn't help but tremble as I spoke. "You've been deceived by Winnie. She has a venomous heart. She's not my sister, but a malevolent spirit. Winnie always used to steal money from our parents and hide it under my pillow, then pretend to discover that I had taken it, which would lead to my parents beating me severely." My explanations were futile. The next day, I would find broken vases and twisted clothes racks around the house. Clearly her doing, yet she would tell my parents I was responsible, and I would be punished again. After I dropped out of school, she even spread rumors among my former classmates that I was promiscuous, first getting pregnant, then having a miscarriage, which supposedly led to me dropping out. Because of this, I was almost violated by a gang. I still remember them saying, since I had already had an abortion, what harm would it do to please them? I once asked Winnie why she treated me this way, and she just laughed, a cruel laugh. "I hate you. Why should you be healthy while I might not even live to 40? Why don't you just die? You'd be free then. Don't keep living shamelessly. Everyone wishes you were dead. Indeed, now that I am dead, will you all be happy to know?" My spirit lingered around them for a while as they sat in the civil affairs office. The heavy rain outside contrasting their joyful faces inside. How ridiculous, isn't it? As the rain slowly stopped, they went to a restaurant to eat. Dad tentatively spoke up, "Mia hasn't been home for several days, and there's been no word from her." Mom immediately took over the conversation, sharply pinching Dad. "It's Winnie's big day getting her certificate. Don't bring up that unlucky Mia." A dark glint passed through Winnie's eyes as she held Mom's hand, tears suddenly streaming down her face. "It's such an important day for me to get my certificate. Where could my sister have gone? She told me a few days ago she was going for a walk near Moon Lake." Jim frowned. "Mia never stays out overnight, and it seems she hasn't been home for about 10 days. Dad expressed his concern. "I hope nothing bad has happened. That wretched girl. If something did happen, it might be better. Maybe Winnie will live a few years longer. They still don't know that I'm dead." Pushed into Moon Lake by their beloved daughter Winnie, my body must be bloated beyond recognition by now. Jim, who knew me somewhat, suggested that they should look for me, but Winnie quickly acted coy, saying, "Jim, you're mine now. Why are you still concerned about my sister?" Mom and Dad also chimed in to dissuade him. After that, no one mentioned looking for me again. Unexpectedly, before they finished their meal, the phone rang. The number 911 flashed brightly on Mom's phone screen. Winnie's expression suddenly turned sinister. It seems like it was fear of being apprehended. "Hello, this is the J City Police Department. Is this Mia's mother? We found a female body at Moon Lake. After a DNA comparison, we confirmed it's your daughter Mia. Please come to the police station." The call was on speakerphone, and Mia's father, Jim, overheard it. Their conversation immediately fell silent, as my spirit hovered near them. I thought to myself, "I am finally dead as you wished. Shouldn't you be happy now?" My mother's face turned pale, her eyes darting around, but I saw no signs of joy. "Strange, isn't it? You should be smiling." "Mom, didn't you always wish for my death? Now that I'm gone, why aren't you smiling?" Her expression was cold, her thoughts unclear, her face a mix of pale and blue. Beside her, Jim's face turned white. "What, Mia is dead?" Dad leaned forward, his normally timid face now filled with surprise and a hint of pain. He looked at Mom, hesitantly and almost pleadingly said, "Wife, did we hear it wrong? How could Mia be dead? She was just full of life a few days ago." Both Mom and Jim remained silent. After a long silence, she finally spoke, her beautiful yet sharp face filled with confusion. "Good riddance. That wretch deserved to die." Winnie threw herself into Jim's arms, her soft lips meeting his. "Jim, don't be sad. You still have Winnie with you." I drifted around them, wondering when they would find out that it was Winnie who pushed me into the lake where I drowned. After Winnie and Jim got their marriage certificate, the house was decorated with joyful double happiness. Characters. Aunt Judy, the neighbor across the street, saw my mother and looked disgusted. You people have no hearts, your elder daughter just died. And now the younger one is marrying her sister's boyfriend. My mother, initially indifferent, flared up when she saw Winnie looking aggrieved. She angrily confronted Aunt Judy. It's better that Mia, that dead girl, is gone. Our Winnie deserves a good man. What's wrong with that? I feel sorry for Mia. How could she have parents like you? Having been your neighbor for so long, I know what kind of person she was. And here you are, her own mother, thinking so vilely of your daughter. Tears nearly spilled from Winnie's eyes as Aunt Judy spat out in disgust and slammed her door shut. Mom was pulled back by Dad and Jim. Even the neighbor felt pity for my death. But what about my mother? She was dismissive, from the beginning to the end. No one mentioned going to the police station to retrieve my belongings. Jim seemed about to speak, but halted under Winnie's soft gaze. When I first opened my eyes in the afterlife, a voice mentioned I had lingering attachments. What could they be? Mom sat cuddling her favored daughter Winnie on the sofa, watching TV. Suddenly, the screen flashed showing images of mother and daughter cozy together. Before meeting that witch, I also had beautiful moments of mother-daughter time with Mom. I was always obedient, always yielding to my sister Winnie. On Mother's Day, I would always pick a large bouquet of flowers for Mom, learning from the florist how to wrap them myself, although Mom scolded me for wasting money when receiving them. Her lips would curve into a smile that day, unable to hide her good mood. She even bought a vase to keep the bouquet I gave her. And how did my sister act? Winnie whispered in Mom's ear, claiming the bouquet's wrapping was sloppy, that I had fished it out from a trash can. I explained that I wrapped it myself, which is why it wasn't very neat. Winnie looked at me with a certainty in her expression, timidly saying, Mom, I saw my sister went to pick it up, I said. A frost seemed to instantly cover Mom's face, but the next day, she still prepared my favorite dishes. At the dinner table, my younger sister kept serving dishes to Mom, looking at me with her innocent, wide eyes and asking, Big sister, why are you only caring about your own meal? Suddenly, Mom slammed her chopsticks on the table and called me heartless. Dad immediately signaled me to serve some food to Mom. As I placed a piece of meat into her bowl, her expression softened significantly. On my birthday, she would buy me gifts and take me to the amusement park. Whenever I struggled with my studies, she would find a tutor to help me catch up. Although she doted on my younger sister, she also showed maternal love towards me. Even when I had nightmares, she would come over, pat my back, and reassure me with her presence. Watching the TV, confusion suddenly appeared in Mom's eyes. She turned off the TV and called Dad. Let's go to the police station. I followed them there. The police found it strange that we hadn't come sooner. The station had called several times to urge the family to visit. Your daughter's drowning may have been caused by someone else, not by her own slipping. The officer's serious gaze shifted between my parents, asking if there was anyone who had a bad relationship with me, then glanced meaningfully at Winnie. She has always been an unpleasant brat, even in death. She's causing trouble for society, he remarked. A female officer nearby shook her head disapprovingly. I've never seen parents with such an attitude towards their deceased child. Another person scolded her, and the female officer stopped talking. She also had a daughter about my age. Suddenly, Jim, pulling my sister along, entered the room without being called by my parents. The police, noticing Winnie's resemblance to me, asked Jim, What relation are you to Mia? She's my girlfriend, he replied. As soon as he said it, he was stunned. Winnie, beside him, looked at him with tearful, reproachful eyes as if silently blaming him for still thinking about me. No, she is my wife's sister. He seemed to realize he and Winnie were already married. For a moment, no one spoke. The deceased's phone is still being repaired. We need to check for any useful information before returning it to the family. The police continued. They received my belongings. 3 items in total, excluding the phone kept by the police. Before they could examine them closely, the phone rang. It was the brash owner of our local supermarket. Mia's mom, we've all heard about your daughter's passing. Since she's no longer here, I'll just send her salary to you. But let me be clear, she had asked me to advance her some money for buying something like candy, and I'll need to deduct that. Among my belongings was a box of expensive throat lozenges. Mom's throat had been sore. And I remembered how she had lingered in front of this brand at the pharmacy before settling for a cheaper alternative. Mom's expression became wooden as she frowned and hung up the phone, her dry eyes slightly reddened. Dad and Jim stayed silent while Winnie playfully moved closer. Big sister really cared about Mom, unlike Winnie, who's still saving up to buy Mom an expensive gift. Mom stroked her head but, for the first time, didn't praise her. Her voice was hoarse. "Mia, that dead brat. Still causing me trouble even after death." Yet, I saw her quietly slip the box of lozenges into her pocket, clutching it tightly, lost in thought, and my soul watched on. It always struck me as odd. "Mom, if you don't love me, why would you take my candy?" The second item left behind was a pair of men's sports shoes. Upon seeing them, Dad's eyes instantly reddened, tears streaming down his wrinkled face onto the shoes. My memory drifted back to that scorching afternoon. I had driven Dad to his office. But the car broke down. He was wearing leather shoes that were so uncomfortable, yet he walked all the way to the office. I thought to myself then, I need to buy him a pair of comfortable sneakers. Mom and Dad were generous with Winnie but always scrimped on themselves. Their lifestyle was far from luxurious. "Mia, I'm sorry," Dad said, tears flooding his face as he held the sneakers. "At such an age, grieving over a dead girl." "Dead is dead," Mom said coldly, her eyes hard as she stared at Dad, who quickly wiped away his tears and fell silent. Over the years, he had gotten used to Mom's control. After she spoke, I saw Mom clutch the throat lozenges in her pocket even tighter. "Mom, is it so wrong for Dad to cry for me?" Jim fixated on the last item left behind. A necklace, named Beating Heart. It was the gift he gave me the day we confirmed our relationship. "Now my heart no longer beats, and you have become Winnie's husband. This necklace, it seems, has returned to its rightful owner. Even though our past was mundane, I don't believe you could forget those moments. Snowy embraces, kisses under the dim streetlights, the tenderness of affectionate moments. I do hate him for betraying our love." Looking at his dark eyes and tightly pursed lips, I suddenly wonder, do you ever regret it? Regret leaving our love behind? Regret ignoring my calls for help? Yes, I called him before I died, but he didn't answer. He pulled out his phone, opened it, and scrolled to the day I died. The missed call in red assaulting his eyes. My thoughts drifted back to the night I died, when Winnie invited me for a walk by Moonlight Lake. "Sister, it seems we've never really talked properly." She took my hand, sisterly, sharing her heart. She said she didn't want to hate me, but whenever she saw my health, she thought of her own frail body, not expected to last until 40. She said she hated me whenever she saw Jim, hated that I could receive the love of such a wonderful man, while most men shunned her because of her health. "Sister, do you know how much I envy you? Envy that you can live like a normal person." Her beautiful eyes, tearful under the moonlight, almost moved me. In the gentle night, her soft voice seemed almost magical. "Sister, you've never been good at swimming, have you?" Before I could respond, she unexpectedly pushed me into the water. "Help, save me." My cries were desperate, but she stood on the shore, watching me struggle. As I was about to drown, she pulled out her phone and dialed emergency contacts. "Sister, I told Jim that you would definitely call him, crying for help these days, and he wouldn't answer." On the shore, Winnie watched me flail, looking almost demonic. "Goodbye, sister." Moonlight Lake was silent and deserted, a beautiful place for moon gazing. There, I would sleep forever, but she didn't know. I had a backup plan. Jim locked himself in his room, saying he needed some time alone. Mom received another call from the police station. "We found out that on that evening, it was your second daughter, Winnie, who pushed Mia into the water and drowned her. We discovered records of the victim's last 2 emergency contacts. One was to you, and the other was to Jim." "Yes. My 2 emergency contacts were my mom and Jim." Unfortunately, when Mom saw my call coming through, she disconnected without a second thought. Her expression twisted hideously as she argued, "You're talking nonsense. Winnie is the kindest. It must have been Mia who fell in by herself." She refused to listen to the police and forcefully hung up the phone. My spirit watched beside her, witnessing her terrifying expression, as if reliving the countless nights she had berated and beaten me. "Mom, I didn't push my sister, she fell by herself." Winnie seemed to hear something, shrinking into a corner, watching Mom. I couldn't help but let out a sneer. "The law won't let any wrongdoer escape. You pushed me into the water, watched me drown, and thought you had covered your tracks perfectly, thinking you could escape punishment. That day, before I met Winnie, I had turned on the recording function on my phone. From the moment I met her until my death, the recording was on. Now, my phone must have been restored by the police. The evidence is irrefutable. You can't escape. The doorbell rang, and the police came in, taking Winnie away. Mom wailed, not letting them. Jim looked wooden, and Dad was full of regret. The next day, Mom seemed to accept the fact that her younger daughter had harmed me. She picked up a box of throat lozenges and went to the police station to see Winnie. Winnie, Mom doesn't want to believe that you would kill Mia, but at that moment, her supposedly sweet younger daughter was expressionless. Mom, isn't this all because of you? Why did you give birth to me so weakly? Mia was stronger. Why should she be? Mia, that wretched girl, she deserved to die. Why should she be healthier than me? Why should she have Jim's affection? Mom, you hate her too. You'll understand me, right? I'm your beloved youngest daughter. As she spoke, a sinister smile spread across Winnie's face. Mom ran away crying, unable to accept that her beloved daughter harbored such malicious thoughts, or that she missed a crucial call from her elder daughter before her death. Holding the box of lozenges, she kept muttering, Mia, Mom was wrong. Can you forgive me? My spirit watched coldly, devoid of emotion. Mom, you always cursed me, wished me dead, and now that I am, what forgiveness are you seeking? Isn't this what you always wanted? She seemed to go mad, ignoring Dad and Jim's attempts to comfort her. Sitting by the lake day after day, neither eating nor drinking, she suddenly recalled what a witch told her when she was 15, that I had stolen my sister's luck, that I was the curse of the family. Because of those words, she became utterly indifferent and cruel to me. She felt as though she had been blinded by foolishness. Countless winter nights she locked me out, chased me away in the summer, let me stay on the main road, never attending the parent-teacher meetings at school, even depriving me of the opportunity to learn. Dad grabbed her and said softly, I always felt you were too indifferent towards Mia, but my words never mattered. You've dominated me all my life. We are all guilty. We owe Mia an apology. Let's go home and sort out the child's belongings, and hold a ritual to help her spirit pass on. In our culture, those who drown become resentful spirits, forever trapped at the site of their death. Hearing this, Mom shakily stood up and followed Dad home. Entering my room, it was cluttered with no space to walk. Among the clutter, a jar of Lucky Stars was particularly noticeable. It was a birthday gift I gave to Mom when I was 17. It said that folding 999 stars can fulfill a wish. What did Mom do at that time? She knocked over my gift, scolding me for giving such a cheap thing. Look at what Winnie gave and then look at yours. But Mom, my sister has a lot of pocket money, and I have nothing. I spent days and nights folding those lucky stars. And you knocked them all over. I picked them up all night, putting them back in the jar. Now, Mom is holding this jar of paper stars she once scorned, crying uncontrollably. Somehow, watching this scene, my soul suddenly felt somewhat transparent. Amidst this, a voice echoed again, one of your obsessions is about to dissipate. My obsession, turns out, part of my obsession was to see Mom regret. But what about the other part? Dad wiped away Mom's tears, and they started packing up my belongings, but they fell silent when they lifted my quilt. There were several patched holes on the sheets. For so long, I had been using the same old quilt, starkly different from Winnie's. Her bedding and clothes were always brand new. That day when I told Mom I wanted a new set of bedding, what did she say? You ungrateful girl, always asking for things. What use is there in birthing you when you're always thinking about the little money in my pocket? Look at your sister. My sister never needed to ask you to change her sheets. You would notice on your own. But not me. You never noticed my worn-out bedding, my unfitting clothes, my mild appetite when all the food at home was spicy. The difference between people is even greater than between a person and a dog. After they finished packing up my belongings, they contacted a specialist to perform the ritual. They were asked to provide something I loved most as a conduit, but my parents looked around and genuinely didn't know what I loved. Then Jim came forward, holding the necklace with a throbbing heart. Jim stayed in the room for a long time, and I don't know what he was regretting. After all, it was he who left me, wasn't it? Who is he pretending to be affectionate for now? I had given him a chance. telling him about the countless times my sister mistreated me since childhood, but since he went down the mountain behind Winnie's back, his heart gradually wasn't with me anymore. Every time he picked me up from work, I could unintentionally see the affectionate messages he sent on WeChat. No need to guess. The person on the other side was my dear sister Winnie. Perhaps out of guilt, the more ambiguously he talked to Winnie, the nicer he was to me. When did he stop pretending? It might have been on New Year's Eve, when the family gathered for dinner. Winnie suddenly suffered from a stomach ache, turning pale, and our parents panicked. Jim, with a grim face, rushed her to the emergency room. His face full of panic relaxed only after knowing she was all right. When he came to his senses, he realized he was by my sister's bedside, while I was still at home. When Winnie woke up, plunging into Jim's embrace, she pleaded, "Brother Jim, can you always take care of Winnie?" Tears welled up in her eyes, their vulnerability and pitifulness clutching at Jim's heart. Guiltily glancing over at me who had just arrived, he took Winnie's hand and tenderly kissed her frail cheek. He had kissed me just like that countless times before. All right, Brother Jim will always be there for Winnie, forever. At that moment, something inside me shattered. I ripped off the necklace around my neck and stuffed it into my pocket. The next day, Jim came to apologize, insisting he still loved me. He claimed his words to Winnie were merely to calm her down, to get her to focus on healing. "Mia, you know Winnie's not well." With a distant look in my eyes, I straightened the collar Winnie had disheveled and asked him by his full name. "Jim, is that the truth?" He hugged me tightly and reassured me over and over. Yet, the very next day after Winnie pushed me into the water, he surrendered to her manipulative tactics. "Brother Jim, Winnie wants to marry you, to truly become a family." Seeing Winnie so frail and threatening suicide, he hesitantly agreed, and they planned to register their marriage in a few days. Perhaps he thought about how to explain it to me, but now that I'm dead, shouldn't he feel relieved? There's no need to exhaustively search for excuses for his betrayal. In that moment, he pulled out the necklace he had given me and handed it to the monk called by my parents to perform the rites. Under the light, the beating heart necklace shimmered enchantingly. As the monk began the chant, my spirit seemed disturbed, and a flood of memories surged forth. My life flashed before me, those memories feeling so distant. A glowing orb of white light appeared nearby. The chanting seemed to beckon me towards the light. Looking towards the chanting monk and my parents beside Jim, I felt bewildered. The monk met my gaze, then turned to look at my parents and Jim. "Do you have anything else to say to her?" Jim lifted his face, so often kissed and caressed by me, now pale and stricken with immense sorrow, tears uncontrollably rolling down. "Tell Mia, I'm sorry." The monk glanced at me again, and I felt the last ties with this world snap. So, my lingering attachment was Jim's apology. My parents, eyes red, looked at the monk. "Can we speak to our daughter?" The monk shook his head. "This girl, I can feel the hatred in her heart." The distant chants seemed forgotten as I never felt as light and joyful as I did at that moment. My soul, riddled with grief, entangled love, and regret, all drifted away. Finally, I left this world. "Mia, your life was tragic. Now live on in place of this girl." That familiar voice echoed as I opened my eyes in the body of a comatose girl. At the bedside, an elderly couple with gray hair looked at me, their eyes brimming with tears. "Mia's awake, old man. This isn't a dream, right? My God." A miracle. The comatose patient in bed 102 woke up. Surprised murmurs and discussions filled the room as medical staff rushed in to check my vitals. Finding everything normal, the patient really woke up. This girl, Mia, was a long-awaited child, deeply cherished by her parents, but had become comatose due to an accident. The elderly couple embraced me, their immense love enveloping me. "Mia, are you hungry? Mom will go get you something to eat." A faint smile appeared on my pale face as I tightly grasped the hands of these elderly people, my new parents. After being discharged, I checked the date and realized it was the year 2025, and I had died in 2005. It turns out, 20 years have passed. I picked up my phone, and a news story caught my eye. It described a recent tragic fire incident. A daughter, her husband, and an elderly couple were reduced to ashes in a massive blaze. Apparently, the daughter had just been released from prison. Why was she incarcerated? Because she had pushed her own sister into a river, leading to her drowning. My mom noticed me staring intently at the news and couldn't help but lean in. "Mia, I heard that the elderly couple deliberately set fire to their daughter and son-in-law. You know, Judy, your grandma, used to be their neighbor. Judy, the grandma. Instantly, I thought of Aunt Chen from across the street. I expressed a desire to meet Judy grandma, and Mom called her over to our house. As Judy grandma walked in, her familiar face gave me a sense of bewilderment. She talked a lot with me, mentioning how after Mia's death, Jim and the elderly couple had been waiting for Winnie to be released from prison. After her release, the elderly couple's door was never opened again. She had heard, in the early mornings, the cries of the old couple filled with regret, lamenting their wrongdoing to their elder daughter. A few days later, thick smoke filled the entire corridor. The family of four was completely consumed by the fire. Mia, it's a strange coincidence, you share the same name with her, Judy grandma sighed. But that child Mia was less fortunate. Such a pity. I grasped her hand. Judy grandma, please think of me as that poor girl. Let me live a good life for her. My mom came over and quickly said not to mind the child's words. Our Mia is blessed with a good fortune. How could she end up like the other Mia? I smiled and also took hold of Mom's hand. The next day, I quietly visited Mia's grave. It felt truly bizarre to visit one's own grave. Unexpectedly, there was a QR code stuck on the tombstone. I scanned it, and Jim's voice emerged. His clear voice reminiscent of the snowy night we first met. He said, Mia, let me always be with you in this way. A breeze passed, rustling the leaves in the cemetery, and I suddenly felt overwhelmed. Jim, leaving his voice on my tombstone, I leaned in and tore off the inconspicuous QR code, throwing it into the trash. My new life had begun. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.